So hello, everyone. My name is Lexis Johnson. I'm the social media manager here at RSDSA. I'm joined by Jim Broach, Executive Vice President and Director of RSDSA, and tonight's guests, Cynthia Toussaint and John Garrett. Now, their bios are absolutely amazing, and I've shortened them a bit for this intro, but I will copy and paste them into the chat so you can learn even more about them during the next hour. So, all right, Cynthia Toussaint has had complex regional pain syndrome for 40 years. She later developed fibromyalgia and other overlapping autoimmune conditions. Her most recent diagnosis is triple-negative breast cancer, which she is currently battling, and of course, we'll discuss tonight. Cynthia founded For Grace in 2002 to raise awareness about CRPS, and 5 years later, expand the organization's mission to include all women in pain. Since 1997, she has been a leading advocate for women in pain, raising awareness through local, national, and worldwide media, as well as public speaking. This includes testimony at California Senate informational hearings and features in the New York Times and Los Angeles Times and on PBS and NPR. Her many speaking engagements also include the National Institutes of Health, Capitol Hill, and the World Health Organization. Toussaint is also the author of Battle for Grace, a memoir of pain, redemption, and impossible love. And I will, of course, put a link to the book in the chat. And now over to John. John Garrett serves as director at For Grace and was instrumental in launching the organization in April 2002, along with his partner, Cynthia. John has been a partner and caregiver to Cynthia for 41 years. He has done extensive research about the gender disparity toward women in pain, compiling a comprehensive library on that issue, along with specific chronic pain conditions. John has assisted Cynthia in all aspects of media relations and advocacy regarding CRPS awareness and the pain gender divide. He has made numerous writing contributions reflecting on his role as a caregiver, trauma survivor, witness, and partner in Cynthia's memoir. He also continues to make public speaking and media appearances that share the virtues and challenges of the caregiving experience. Absolutely amazing. And before I turn it over to Jim, as always, remember that while the information shared here is helpful, please consult your physician for any personalized medical advice. All right, Jim, before we turn it over to our guests, I know we have a lot of great events coming up all across the country, so I'll let you discuss a few of those.
Okay. And it's so exciting to say Mrs. Johnson.
There you go.
Alexis was married within the last year.
Yes, yes.
That's great. And so first, before I congratulate our guests, I just want to say we have two events coming on Saturday. Miller Kerr is walking in Dallas, and if you're near Dallas, please go. And Alexis, what is her dance or her marching band? What is it?
The Kilgore Rangerettes.
Okay. Either did Alexis didn't know it on my phone here, but and also on June 3rd, Kelly Constantine is leading our 4th virtual walk, and we'd really like you to walk with us. You could do it from your home, and you could do it with friends, or you could just do it virtually. We'll be live streaming it, and we're really excited about that. And the other thing we're going to be doing very shortly is that we've redesigned our website, and we're going to have a great launch very soon. We're excited about that. So a lot of good things happening. But Alexis, thank you. And to hear the other Alexis.
There you go. That's my best friend in your office.
But I have been a fan of John and Cynthia for years, not 40 years, but I have advocated with them, and I applaud all your efforts. And
I gotcha, Jim.
I'm excited about tonight. And so tell us about the birth of For Grace and some of the work that you've done. We've just touched upon it.
So we started For Grace. We incorporated in 2002.
2002, yeah, all right.
Wow.
Give ourselves
It's
too
not
much
been
credit.
that long.
Yeah.
And we raised awareness of, I like to say CRPS, and I know you don't want me to say that, so I'll try to say CRPS. We did that for several years, mostly with media and public speaking engagement and engagements, as well as Senate informational hearings, a lot of legislation. And then one day, John dropped a pile of papers in my lap.
I did.
John stirs stuff up.
Big old pile of paper. I think it burned out the printer. It was
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah, and that's when I got to read the report called "The Girl Who Cried Pain: A
Yeah.
Bias Against Women in the Treatment of Pain." And I learned that we women are predisposed to all of the chronic pain diseases. We feel pain more intensely than men. And surprisingly, we have a lower pain threshold.
Who knew?
However, especially I know with you,
Yeah.
but when we women report our pain to our physicians, we're told that it's hormonal, all in our heads. We're given sedatives along with psychiatric referrals, whereas men in pain are much more likely to be believed and to be given painkillers. So that's when we expanded our mission to helping all women in pain.
Helping all women in pain. And then
Do you have a
as-
smart ass thing?
I
to say
have
now?
no smart ass thing to say right now. I'm just gonna let the love flow.
Right.
Yeah, so then from that point on, that was in about the mid 2000s. And then, but we,
Right.
you know, again, we kind of approached this whole chronic pain experience, CRPS pain experience. as something-
CRPS.
CRPS, sorry, CRPS.
John, whatever you're comfortable with.
Whatever's good. Yeah, whatever. Whatever
It's
they
a
call it.
long habit.
Whatever
We
the heck they're
to
calling
break
it these
fast.
days. We just knew, we knew there was a bigger puzzle here. There was a bigger puzzle to figure out. And again, with our CRPS awareness that we started off the organization, and then working with women in pain and gender bias, we knew that was, and so we were filling in some of the pieces, but we knew there were still some more pieces to be filled in. And so us being us, we just kind of let, you know, where the winds blow us. So we just knew that women, there was a reason why women were being undertreated, and that was basically conventional or traditional Western healthcare just wasn't doing it for them. So we found out about this thing called integrative healthcare, which was very amazing to us. And so we started raising awareness of that particular issue, and that filled in a few more of the pieces. And then again, I think it's been mentioned that Cynthia has had a bout with cancer. So that was another piece we brought in, this pain cancer connection, just to make sure people are aware that there is a connection between these two disease orders. But again, not quite done yet. And what we came across in the last 4 or 5 years, and we feel really has filled in the whole chronic pain picture now puzzle, is this our trauma, our early trauma, medical trauma, adult onset trauma, many forms of trauma,
Mostly childhood trauma.
mainly childhood trauma, can be a driver for chronic illness, and of course, chronic pain falling under that, CRPS falling under that.
John, before we get into trauma, I wanted to ask you that, talk about discrimination, and more we're learning about people in color have tremendous discrimination in the pain field. Have you run across that, Cynthia and John?
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, again, medical care is just a reflection of society at large, right?
Yes.
You know, we always said that about women with pain. Why wouldn't they be dismissed for their pain? I mean, you know, I'm sorry.
We're second-class citizens,
We
right?
treat them as
Right.
second-class citizens. So, yeah, I mean, we have a basic beef with Western healthcare in a lot of different ways, that there's a lot of pieces that are relatively dysfunctional and broken. That's not to say there are a lot of great doctors and healthcare professionals doing great work out there, doing.
I reminded him to say that.
Yeah,
I
no,
always
no,
remind
no,
him
I
to
truly
say that.
believe that. We have met many of these people, and they are phenomenal.
That's
But
true.
by and large, the system has a lot of holes in it. And yes, there is. We think there is misogyny, there is sexism, there is racism, there is gender bias, there is
Implicit,
and
explicit
explicit.
bias, yeah.
Obviously, with male physicians, with female physicians. So yeah, I believe that is a real thing, and I think that needs to be worked on by the physician groups out there and the people that pull the levers on healthcare in America. I think it needs to be addressed.
Right.
Yeah, I see the whole fragmentation, and with CRPS so often that after you fail one medicine, they go right to a spinal cord stimulator or a pain pump. They really, integrative care that we're going to talk about generally is not well reimbursed.
That's a good point. So
Right.
many women in pain reach out to us and
Right.
say, Western care has completely failed me. I want to do integrative care, but I'm not covered. And that's so frustrating because integrative care helps so much. So that's a huge problem that we have.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
a
with,
that's a big barrier.
healthcare.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's these are wonderful therapies, but
Yeah.
if you
Mhm.
can't afford $100 visit to your acupuncture, then you may as well, be
Right.
on the other side of Mars, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to really hear about them if you're not covered.
Right.
I don't know.
So Cynthia, so you were displeased with Western medicine. So where was the breakthrough to all of a sudden there's this whole other field of integrative care?
So I had heard about integrative care for some time before, and I remember I finally would not leave my my doctor's office before she would get me an appointment with an integrative doctor. And because I just thought that's my hope, and I could never get an appointment. The waiting list was always too long. Do you remember that, Dr. Flores?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. do.
And I love integrative care. I'm responsible for my own healing. And that when I first heard that, it made me really angry, because I thought, wait, I didn't want to get sick. Doctors should make me well. But then with time, I learned, well, number one, the doctors weren't making me well. And I realized, well, nobody wants me to feel good more than I do, and nobody understands my body better than I do. So I am my best healer, and I really learned that with integrative care. And also integrative care doctors, they will not tell you that it's all in your head, and they understand pain. And I was treated with respect, really, for the first time in probably like 15 years. I'll bet you I'd had CRPS for about 15 years once I finally saw that integrative doctor. And there are just things that we can do that are so important. But I want you to explain what integrative care is, because a lot of people don't know what it is. Even doctors don't know.
Good point.
Right. I think there's still some understanding, it's starting to get into mainstream, about what is called integrative care, but it goes under a lot of different names. I've come across integrative health. I've called whole body care, whole person care. So there's a lot of different names that come under this basic concept, which is, again, with integrative care, you're basically combining three care models together, and they overlap. And what you're getting is more bang for your buck. You're getting more options for treatments, especially for these invisible diseases or chronic, long-term chronic care conditions. Long COVID now would be one of these diseases that definitely could benefit from integrative care. But again,
also they don't go for invasive right away, like you're talking about, Jim. That's the last option,
right? So the three models that care that involve with integrative care, and I guess I have this little metaphor of a three-legged stool, the top of it being the wellness. That's where everything sits, but one of the legs is conventional care. Again, this Western healthcare that we've been so kind about so far on the show. We've been speaking so highly of, but that's the one we all know of: the doctors, the pills, procedures. That's the one we all know about, and most of us are a part. When we go to
what's a typical integrative team that people put together?
Well, that's it. I mean, that's the point. You get your MD. I mean, but in the case of some integrative centers that we've been, this MD has also been trained on Chinese medicine, so they go to school a lot longer. They know reflexology. They know acupuncture. They know acupressure. So the MD, and again, that's the other part of the second leg, is that conventional or alternative piece of
complementary.
So they not only does he or she have the ability to prescribe, conventional medications, pharmaceuticals, if that's what they choose, they can also prescribe you acupuncture, or they can actually perform that on you themselves or their team. So it's usually, and you probably have a physical therapist in there. You probably have, many others that fall under the acupuncturists. That's what I'm saying.
Also, more and more the pain psychologist, perhaps.
Very good. Exactly.
Thank
absolutely. Thank you, Jim. Right. Obviously, the behavioral modification piece of it, is so important. Somebody that can maybe work with neurofeedback, with cognitive behavioral therapy, things of that, talk therapy, things of that nature. So it's whole body, it's mind and body.
It's not like, here comes Cynthia and her CRPS.
Right.
It's here comes Cynthia.
There comes Cynthia.
Here comes Joanne. Here comes,
and they typically, they don't see
here comes
that,
Jim.
That silo of body and mind.
Exactly.
They see how those two things.
And they also respect what and they're not threatened by you being an advocate. Because I remember when I first started seeing an integrative doctor, when I would give him my problem, he would say, after really listening to me, he would say, "What do you think we should do?" Right. And I'm like, I was blown away. And most of the time I had the answer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was really amazing.
I just want to throw in the last leg.
I got
to get this stool out of the way. And this is the one we're high on. And this is the one that, again, if you go to say a good integrative health practitioner, they're going to be pushing hard on this, is self-care. This idea of self-care, that you are, as Cynthia has already said, you are the captain of your ship. You are
I
your
didn't
own
say
best healer. And,
Did I say that?
we,
I agree.
a colleague of ours who says that, basically 80% of wellness comes from internal, from within, and the other 20% comes from external factors. So,
I agree.
so that being the case, so you need to pony up and really get in and understand that you have a deep responsibility for your own wellness, despite whatever might be afflicting
Right.
you. And again, that's diet, that's exercise, that's all the big ones,
Right.
Cynthia, list off them.
Yeah, I like, to me, healthy diet. I mean, we eat a plant-based diet. I'm pescatarian, but
Yeah.
other than 3 pieces of fish, everything I eat is vegan and cancer hostile. I mean, food as medicine is very
Yeah.
integrative. Exercising, I mean, we have to get aerobic exercise. We have to get that core
As much as you
strengthening
can.
work. Yeah, I mean, we have to move our bodies every day. Just because we have pain doesn't change that. If anything, we have to move them, more.
Yeah.
So to be well, we have to get good sleep.
Good
And
sleep.
if you're like me out there, you have chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, I feel your pain. I get it. I mean, it can be a supreme challenge to get a really good night of restorative sleep. And I didn't get one last night, and I'm hurting because of that. But because of really good sleep hygiene, I'm getting more good nights than bad nights now. So it actually helps. Also, I can't stress management enough. I mean,
Hey.
I was always a workaholic, and finally, like, weekends are sacred. And at a certain time of the day, it's like, don't even tell me about an
Oh,
email.
yeah.
I'm done, and
Yeah.
that's really changed my life. And also another one that under stress management that people kind of laugh at, but it's really important to me, is I've removed toxic people from my life. I've been fighting for my life now for a number of years, and it's not worth it. I have a family kind of filled with a lot of trauma, and some people that are they're very hurtful, and I will block their phone number. I mean, I won't take anything in the mail, so that's been very, very important for my wellness. Also saying no. I'm reading Trauma.
There you
Gabo
go.
Mate is
No.
talking always about who get, CRPS and these chronic pain diseases and cancer and all these bad diseases. We generally are people who will do our work. We'll do everybody else's work. We're the fixers. We take care of everything.
Mhm.
And
is a
I
complete
find,
sentence.
yeah, there you go.
No is a complete
I'm more
sentence.
polite than
Okay,
that.
all right.
But I've learned how to take care of myself better by, if something isn't going to be really helping me with my health, but it's really going to be draining me, I finally have learned to do that. That's been huge. And also, I think having meaning and purpose in our life is huge. And also living our passions. And I think just because we have CRPS, I'm learning to say CRPS. It doesn't mean that we can't, do the things we love. I love to sing with choirs, with
Sure.
bands. I record.
And you love to swim.
Oh my God, that's a huge
That's a
passion.
big one.
We should talk about that.
Exercise. aerobic.
Yeah, so I love to swim. That's the only time I really feel free is when I swim, because I can swim. People say I should move to Venice because I can swim forever, but I can't walk half a block, but I can swim a mile.
Yeah.
So I also love to play the
I'll
piano.
move to Venice.
So Cynthia, I just want to go back a moment. Did you have to shop for that right integrative practitioner? How did you find him or her?
I took whichever one they offered me, but I knew the center I wanted to go to. I had heard that they were incredible. And every time I went to see my internist, I told her I want an appointment. I'm not going to leave. And finally, I just wouldn't leave. And she got me that appointment. And that was in December.
That was 2003, 4. That was when
We got the year right. We were
something
a
like that.
decade off.
Long time ago.
And I literally didn't leave until she had that appointment, and it completely changed my life.
Yeah. So how do people go about that journey to find an integrative physician or NP, PA, whatever?
People always ask me this question, and I guess you have to learn. Number one is you have to learn where is an integrative center, an East-West clinic, where you live. Is there one? I'm hoping that there is. I'm hoping that you're covered. I was covered, and I still am. And now I've found through, because I've had a very serious cancer diagnosis. There's a nonprofit in LA where I can get a lot of integrative, it's all integrative care,
Yeah.
actually. They're called WeSpark.
Yeah.
WeSpark, WE and then SPARK. And if you've had a cancer diagnosis, I mean, everything is free. I mean,
It is.
and I mean, I
It's
can go
really
to
amazing.
acupuncture. I'm going to start reflexology with them. They do support groups. What else? I mean, they do, I don't know what they,
You know, a lot of, support groups,
Qigong,
Qigong, Tai Chi. I mean,
they
it
don't do
just goes on and
swimming,
on.
but yeah,
Yeah.
they're really
Yeah,
incredible.
no, it's really.
We
We just did an
Such-
end of life. We were just like
Right,
doing
talking
an
about end of life
seminar, yeah.
options, you know, there's
yeah.
obviously
Just
not.
things that we should all do anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Just-
that's really incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a way to find out how to do it. There's a way to get covered, even if you just learn about it. I mean, all the things that I just talked about, all the self-care, you can do that for free. I mean, maybe swimming will cost something, but I mean, this is a very low cost and a very, you know, you get a lot of bang for your buck with this, with the self-care, you know, which is
Right.
part of integrative care. I feel like it's the biggest part of integrative care, but I take medication for CRPS. So it's not
Sure.
like I've dropped out of Western care completely. He always thinks I have, but I haven't.
No.
And
yeah,
I,
no.
you know, I love
Right.
complementary care. I mean, I love, you know, all of it, as long as I get to choose what I want to do,
Yeah.
you know.
I interrupted you when you were talking about trauma, so continue what you've discovered about that and the connection to CRPS and other syndromes, et cetera.
Well, yeah, well, that's, it is, you
You
know,
want me
it's,
to do
you know, obviously it's becoming more and more known. I mean, in you know, in media and the healthcare circles, the word trauma, the understanding of it, and, you know, what does that mean and how does that affect my health and things of that nature. We didn't really become, you know, conscious of it or cognizant of it until about 7 or 8 years ago, how it may have been, I'm going to put a big may on this. I'm not saying it is, it's a may contribute to your chronic illness state, your CRPS, your fibromyalgia, what have you. It may be a precursor to what you're experiencing right now, and it's and really.
So I disagree
I'm
with
gonna
you. I think
say-
it's an absolute. I mean, unless you had an injury and that's how you got
Yeah.
hurt. I mean, if you have,
Yeah.
in my opinion, if you have high impact pain, it's because of trauma. I mean, it's just, I don't think anyone's
Okay.
questioning that anymore.
Right, and
I
this,
think we have to move beyond the
Yeah.
word may.
and I again, some of the folks to look into if you're looking for a book on this would be people like Gabor Mate, or of course Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score.
You just read it for the
These are-
second
these are-
time. It's
yeah,
incredible.
These are folks that are bringing out the idea that trauma.
That was a New York Times bestseller, I think.
You know what? That has been in Amazon top 20 for like 8
Yeah.
years.
Yes,
And he
okay,
was
in
not a
2015, and
former president. I mean,
remains
it's
as a
just
20, but
amazing.
it gives, again, it tells you how this is starting to become common thinking. That again, trauma may have a hand in a whole host of things. And when I say trauma, it could be individual trauma. Again, as you mentioned earlier, Jim, about, you know, there's trauma that comes out of racial trauma, societal problems, being
It's
a
generational
low
trauma.
income individual, living in poverty, things of this nature. A whole host of things can drive trauma. But again, in the more classic sense is that in the first early part of your life, you may have had a very unfortunate, you know, first years of your life in terms of your upbringing and what you've been subjected to. And so they have this thing called the Adverse Childhood Events Questionnaire now, ACE. This is something that hopefully they'll be using more and more to screen people as they come through, not just pain clinics, any clinic, you know, any place to assess how this, again, maybe trauma can be a part. And again, what trauma does is it sets up basically early on, if you've had a very unstable, unfortunate early part of your life, the theory goes is that you may have, you're now experiencing a heightened sense of anxiety, and that causes a fight or flight response, and your brain and your body forms in that way the first couple of years. And so you're that alarm that traditionally should only be on for a bit.
Like 3 minutes.
Is on all
Yeah.
the time, and
Yeah.
is in a heightened state. So you're dealing with, because of that, toxic stress, which leads to inflammation, which then as we know, heightened inflammation can lead to a whole host of disorders, diabetes, again, chronic pain. I'm just, again, cancer
heart
is another
disease, yeah,
one. So,
all of them, really.
so that's the thinking behind early childhood trauma leading to illness. And again, this big study that ACE came out of, this study, interestingly, came out of Southern California with the Kaiser Permanente system here. There was a weight loss clinic they were looking into, and the guy was like going, he found this correlation between people who had weight issues, obesity issues, typically had early childhood trauma issues also.
Well, addiction comes
And
from
then he
trauma.
just extrapolated from that further
Eating
studies.
for comfort and,
Eating for comfort,
Exactly.
or the
Yeah.
And addiction. I mean, addictions come from
Yeah.
trauma.
most
I've always
fascinating-
believed that incidents in our lives are slowly, it's the kindling that prepares for inferno later.
Yes.
Very good word. Yeah.
Fine, that's
like that.
exactly it, Jim, and that's it. It's something before I knew about this, I just had this sense, again, some of Cynthia's experiences, other experiences, a lot of women we talked to, and in our work for Grace, is that it seemed to be this kind of bad begets bad. Something early in now you end up with a really challenging chronic illness disease or chronic pain disease. It just seemed like there was a course of events that kind of led to that point.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that's what's going on with you, but it may. I'm talking about
I think you're talking about Jim.
I'm talking about the viewers, people watching internet.
Well, I think that, John, you're being
It's
sensitive to the
something to look into. It's something to examine and see if that is. And fortunately, if it is, there are therapies. There are things that you can pursue if that
you
is
can
something
always
that
reverse
hasn't
the
been
damage that's been done. I mean,
Exactly.
the earlier you find out about it, you have a buffer, somebody who's going to, protect you and is going to, be able to look at the trauma as real. And hopefully you have doctors and maybe a psychologist who can help you. You can turn the trauma around. And even as a young person, if you're caught early enough, you can turn around all the damage, which is the hope. And you can always, I've done a lot of EMDR, eye movement desensitization, reprocessing, one-eye integration. And that has been so helpful.
Right.
And then just things like living your passion and finding meaning in your life, things that I was talking about, that's trauma release. Pet therapy is trauma release. Music, things that make us happy, So, what's interesting is I had heard that trauma had caused my pain for a number of years before I would even kind of do any trauma release, because I thought I was kind of afraid of it. And I know that a lot of people with pain are afraid of the idea of trauma having caused our pain. But when I got cancer, I was told, the good news is you won't have triple negative breast cancer, the most aggressive form, TNBC. Because that's young African-American women. Well, they were wrong. I did have it. And then they told me I'd be BRCA positive, which is a genetic mutation that they thought might cause it. I think they're wrong about that. But anyway, I was negative for BRCA and all, 100 genetic mutations that they tested me for. And they said, that being said, we can't explain your triple negative breast cancer. So then I went to my pain doctor, who I love. He's more of a colleague, but when I'm really in trouble, I go to him and I gave him the $64,000 million question, how can I have TNBC when I'm BRCA negative? And he said, really, that's pretty easy, Cynthia. You've been trying to fix your dysfunctional family your entire life. And the load that put on your system is why you have triple negative breast cancer and why you've had pain for 40 years.
Right.
So that's when we just got, when I heard that from a person I trust completely, that's when we did our deep dive into we haven't stopped reading and learning about trauma sense. And it's fascinating. I feel like, to me, it's like, learning, finding out the answers for why we're suffering so much, for me is really helpful. So I'm not threatened by it. And I think, John, you're being really sensitive to people maybe being threatened by this. And I think for the most part, we feel better when we understand why we don't, why we've been sick. And and then we can't.
Long as we don't blame the victim,
You can't play the victim, but this is being the opposite. This is being an advocate. This is saying, I know what happened, and now I can take action, and I can do something to make it better.
Exactly.
No, I'm the complete opposite of being a victim.
Good. And
Yeah.
the other thing I am always amazed at the support you have now, Cynthia. And a lot of what I have difficulty with, there's a lot of people out there where their lives have been shattered by the diagnosis of CRPS. Spouses have left, friends have left, they're not working, they're alone. How do you try to build that support system for people out there alone? It's an easy question.
So, yeah, it's kind of complicated because I feel like I'm that person. That's
Mhm.
interesting. In so many ways I feel alone, but I have been at a level 10 pain for about 2 months now, and I get out like once a week. I'm really stuck in. I'm really going through a rough time because of cancer treatment. So I don't know. How do you? It's hard to tell people how to get people in your life. I would say join your local YMCA. I mean, try to get communities in your life. I mean, and maybe you'll get in the pool there, or just, maybe, I mean, it's a big social thing. Maybe you'll take a pool class. Maybe you'll, maybe some other kind of class. Maybe join a church.
A faith community. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What can you do where you're going to meet people who are going to care about you? I'm trying to think of join something that you love, right?
What you think? Yeah, we're thinking
If
that
you-
you can find common ground with other people with common interests versus not necessarily that you have the same disease state, but you may have the same interest in, I don't know,
Or even a
bird
support
watching
group.
or what
Bird
have you.
watching, or a
whatever.
kitty
I mean,
foster. Yeah, be a kitty.
You've
been wanting to be a kid.
programs, a pet,
Right.
there's some,
And there's
Because that's really hard. People, I
it
mean,
is.
because I've been going through you're asking me this at a time where it's just really, really hard time in my life. For 2 months, I've been feeling really guilty toward my friends. Like, how long can they take this? I've just been going through such a hard time because of cancer treatment for so long that I feel guilty. Not so much toward John. I have this great guy, for 43 years, but we had to get through all of this. And that was not easy,
No, it wasn't.
to survive all of this. So
There was some very dark times. Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
expect the journey with your partner to be easy at all,
Right.
but don't ever compromise. Know that you deserve the best partner. And because you're sick, don't ever think that you're less than. I hear a lot, you're so lucky to have him. And I come back with, I know, and he's so lucky to have me. I mean, it's just,
I'll second
and we
that
have to
motion.
know that about
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So I guess a big part of it is having self-respect. And you're gonna,
Self-belief.
it's sort of like the love that you put out is the love that you'll bring. You were talking about our energy this morning. I just like to face the world with a smile. It's just, and yet people will say to me, what do you, they sometimes get mad at me, like, what do you even have to be happy about? I mean, you're suffering so much, and now it's like you're fighting for your life. And it's like, it's just a choice, so part of that is making that choice to be kind to people. And I think
it was interesting. Last Sunday I was in church, and our priest said, I just want to talk about today about don't come to me with your negativity. Look for the good in life. And it is so important to look for the good.
I like that, but then it can turn into a platitude of, like, people will say to me, just be I'm just going all the way to the other side of that coin, where people have said to me so often, just be positive and everything will be fine. And it's like, that makes me a little crazy, but I've kind of learned, if I'm it's so hard to fake positivity. That's exhausting. But I think that I've learned if I am authentic,
Right.
that will bring me to positivity. So there's a way to come to positivity. And if we're having a really bad day, I say grieve, go get in bed. I've done it, lie in bed and feel sorry for yourself, whatever you need to do. I've done that, but generally I get up after, like, it feels like 10, weeks, but it's usually like, 45 minutes. And I'm done with that. I've thrown my fit, and I'm done. I know. And then I've got a new idea.
You do. You pick your.
That's when my best ideas come. That and
by
swimming.
the bootstraps and get it on. But
see, right now I can't swim, so I'm really miserable
right
now.
But yeah, and that's and it's society. So people being people who they are, the type of thing. People, life is tough, right? And so we people don't necessarily want to hear something bad come out of
Yeah.
somebody else, you know. and
That's true.
That's just, these are the things you struggle with CRPS. is
Well,
that
it's sort of
that's
like,
so
well,
much
we're
of a-
done with the pain thing, right?
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
done with the pain.
you're not
That's
gonna
done
keep-
with us. And
Yeah.
no, it's not. I mean, and so, you know, it's hard to find those people that can really not, you know, you know, you don't want to be a misery loves company type of thing. And you know, there's a place for misery. But I mean, you don't want to just find people that support
It's a
that.
delicate dance, you know.
It's a delicate
dance.
dance. I love
Exactly.
that you brought up dance. It's always a
Exactly, Jim.
dance.
It's a delicate dance, and you.
And some of my best friends are women with high impact pain
Right.
because we get each other on a level that nobody
Mhm.
else will ever get me. And I'll get a call from them and John always laughs because they're usually on speakerphone and because it's hard for me to hold the phone up to my ear, but you know, they'll just break out crying. You know, it's just
Yeah.
I'm so lonely or I'm in so much pain
Right.
and I'm the
Mhm.
one who's going to get it. You know,
Sure.
and we can comfort each other and we get it. You know, I mean, I just said that, but my friends who don't have pain, you know, it's every friend, you know, serves a different purpose and we serve a different purpose for them. But I just feel like I was with a friend over the weekend and they were
Mhm.
so good to me, but they just didn't understand that I was suffering so much over the weekend. And I finally just told them, you know, but it's harder. I feel almost more guilty.
You were going to say, kind of almost guilty that you.
I
kinda-
felt guilty,
kinda
yeah, for
put
telling
that
the truth.
upon them,
Yeah.
But that's.
And I've had like family members where if I bring up pain, it's just dismissed. And I just know that I'll be asked to leave the house. You know, I mean, I can't talk about it. You know, my family's never, except for my mother, they've never acknowledged that I have pain. You know, they've never acknowledged that I have cancer. So,
Mhm.
you know, certain people can't take illness.
Yeah, and I always hear about when people sprain an ankle, you know, and you're still on the couch, what's going on? And it's just horrific. And Kate Bowler, who's this wonderful divinity, Duke Divinity School, I think she has EDS, and she talked about for her, 5 minutes of pain, high impact pain, are like 8 hours. And people
I
don't
agree.
understand that because they don't feel the intensity of your pain.
And it's
Right.
so exhausting. I mean,
Yes.
in fact, I'm going through this right now and I had forgotten how exhausting it is.
Yeah.
And I try not to break down and cry, but sometimes that's the best thing I can do. You know, I
Right.
just feel like if I start, I won't be able to stop, but it's just, I'm so exhausted all the time, you know, I mean, because the pain is so severe. This is
Yeah.
actually a good interview to be doing right now because I'm just suffering so much. And
Yeah.
it's I mean, what's worse? I
You
mean,
wouldn't know.
I know, but you'll know after this.
Hey, yeah.
And what is
Find
our
Hmm.
what is our worst fear? It's not dying, it's dying with pain. You know,
No.
and that's
And
It makes
also
so
dying
much pain.
alone too, Cynthia, you know, it's so often,
That's
That's
true.
high on the list too.
yeah.
dying alone with pain. No.
Dying alone-
Dying with
That's
pain
even
alone.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So I think when you're seeking out a support circle, I mean, you know, again, what's been successful with us is that, yeah, part of it are those people you can go to, you can pick up the phone. If anybody ever picks up a phone anymore, I'm sorry, I don't know, you know, and you say, hey,
Text.
you know, I am having a super lousy day today, and this is what's going on. And they understand it because probably they have a similar type of condition. So they understand right off the bat what's going on. So you don't need to do a lot of explaining, and you don't have to worry whether they're going to accept you, reject you, things of that nature. And then
Trust.
but again, you
Right.
don't want to just make that your whole world. You want to
Yeah.
make sure you've got some.
Cynthia,
Cynthia,
when you were diagnosed with cancer, did some people change how they perceived you? Because you no longer were just a person with pain, high impact pain. You now had the big C.
Yeah, I know, it was
Big
real.
C. Yeah, great
It
question,
was
Jim.
their
Yes.
biggest fear.
Yeah.
It's everybody's biggest fear.
Mm.
I was just thinking, actually, I get a lot more support now that I've gone through cancer twice. I do, I don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
agree.
got flowers yesterday. I got a number of cards, and I'm going through a lot of pain right now. But yeah, with the big C, I mean, it makes CRPS. I slept. It makes it a lot worse because you're trying to navigate the big C with CRPS, and it's all impossible to do.
Yes.
And doctors will never put any weight into CRPS at all. Oncologists, they just don't believe in it. I mean, I've been told my other patients want to live. You know, I mean, I'm insulting them when I talk about
this pain
CRPS.
thing. What are you even talking about?
Yeah,
This pain thing?
Why
Yeah,
would that
what-
matter?
what's
You're
that
fighting
to
for
do
your
with-
life now, you know.
Yeah.
So I could go on and on.
But there's cancer
think-
pain too, right?
Yeah,
Bingo.
yeah,
But
and
again-
whenever I'm having pain, Jim, they go right to, oh, they start feeling different parts of my body, like it must be the cancer. It's never the cancer. See, they don't know that I've been doing this for over 40 years. It's pain.
Yeah.
You know, they don't take it.
They don't,
just-
yeah,
they
because
don't take it
you're right,
seriously.
Jim, there is cancer pain, right? Pain that comes out of cancer treatment.
I've
There's no
never
doubt
had
about it.
treatment.
But it's a different thing when you go to an oncologist and say, hey, you've given me this laundry list of things, I have to do to get, save my life. But you know what? I know for a fact this thing is going to make my CRPS blow up like a son of a gun. And I can't go there. And they just have no idea what that means. They have no clue because they believe they just think, why wouldn't you throw everything in the kitchen sink in to save yourself from this?
Save your life.
Save
but
your life.
They don't think of quality.
Yeah, they don't think of
And they
this
also don't
thing that
believe
might
in
come
pain,
out of
yeah.
it, which is a really adverse impact to quality of life, what they might do. So
And
they,
think we've
I
talked
actually-
about-
it's hard to,
we've talked about this absurd distinction between cancer, malignant pain and non-malignant pain. And pain is pain.
yeah.
Pain is
it
pain.
sure
I've
is.
actually never had malignant pain. I've never felt
Yeah,
cancer pain, but I
interestingly,
sure have felt the pain of a malignant treatment. I mean, that's what I'm feeling right now. I did immunotherapy when I had a recurrence, and my doctor actually wanted me to do full dose chemo again, but more of it. Surgery, which I didn't do the first time, radiation, radiation, then more immunotherapy.
Mhm.
And when I got the message, I screamed. And then I told him, I know that this comes from a place of love, but I know it will kill me. And I had such a serious complication that it would have killed me. And now he's like looking at that going, whoa, how did you know that? But I just, it's our intuition. We get to know our bodies so well when we have, high impact pain. And just with what I did, which was low dose chemotherapy, and I did the immunotherapy, I ended up having a big complication. I ended up in the hospital. I'm lucky to be alive. And I didn't even do half of what they wanted me to do. I mean, and I'm suffering at a level 10 pain for 2 months. So, I mean, this cancer treatment is really dangerous stuff. And I spent 6 months when I first got it. I spent 6 months. We were researching TNBC, triple negative breast cancer, and the doctors would get so mad. I remember they'd say, every day that you're making a decision, Cynthia, you're deciding what to do treatment wise, your tumor is getting bigger. And I thought, I'm being abused, just like I was by the pain doctors. And I could feel it. I knew it wasn't getting bigger. And when we finally did imaging, it had actually gotten smaller over those 6
Well, there
months.
you
And I'm
go.
thinking maybe I shouldn't have done anything. Who
Yeah,
knows? Maybe it would
who
have gone
knows?
away.
I mean,
I don't know.
yeah.
I just wasn't
I don't
willing
know.
to take that
Didn't find out.
risk, but I didn't do nearly what they wanted me
Yeah.
to do.
But there's,
Yeah.
For people who don't know that Cynthia is a columnist for Pain News Network, right?
Yes, I am.
And you've written about your cancer journey there. I've read it a number of times. I wanted to ask you,
You're very brave because I go very dark when I write. So thank you for mentioning
Yeah.
that.
But
Yeah.
Cynthia, you're pretty. So were you in the beginning of your cancer journey, were they dismissing you because you were pretty?
Pain cancer. So that's fascinating that you brought that up. Thank you, number one.
you should say that.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the abuse that I had, it kind of, I got CRPS way back in 1982.
Woo!
And it was a ballet injury.
Another
That's a
century.
another
I
century ago,
know, but
Covered
after horsing
wagons,
back, you know, I was after
yeah.
And but the first abuse that I received, I hate to say it, but the abuse that I received at first was flirtation. I mean, I remember, oh God, I remember hearing, well, Cynthia, your hamstring is very tight, the way many of us men like our women. This was
sorry.
not a
I'm
compliment.
sorry.
I remember hearing you're a Las Vegas showgirl. I've never met you. I want to take you out. And then they'd hear about John. They'd be very angry. I remember one doctor, I was out at the nurses station and it was so horrible. He said, my prescription for you is to take care of your gorgeous legs. And I went home and I just cried with my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, stop wearing makeup. And
Wearing
so I
makeup.
learned that you can't be pretty. And I started
Yeah,
trying to look.
it wasn't, hey, report that physician, go to the hospital.
No, yeah,
administrator.
that's right.
Stop, no, she
Stop
said,
wearing
stop wearing
makeup.
makeup. That was, that was before Me Too and Time's Up and all that.
Way
A long
before.
time before that.
Yeah, and then it changed. It once the doctors realized and other healthcare professionals realized that wait, she's not getting better. It doesn't look like she's going to get better. Then I started getting diagnosed with things like stage fright, right?
Yes.
Tendonitis, was it stage fright? Tendonitis from Mars. I was often told that I was enjoying the secondary gain that I was receiving from my attentive partner.
Guilty as charged. Yes.
But I thought I looked better in a tutu than a
We
wheelchair.
sure
so it
did.
didn't make
I'll
sense.
second that emotion. for
And
sure.
I mean, it just went on and
Yeah.
on. And the worst thing that, well, I was told that I was folding up my arm when it went into a permanent contracture about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I was you're folding up your arm with your mind, just the way one levitates oneself.
Levitates oneself. Now, the
And-
funny thing about that, Jim, is as Cynthia said, we had been working in Vegas in an illusion act. So we did levitations, and we knew that's not how you did a
I didn't know this
levitation.
one.
And I don't know, he was just, it was the patients running the asylum there. He was a neurologist. It was, he was a guy.
It was all so crazy.
He couldn't handle the fact that he couldn't get a handle on what was
It's
going on.
like
there.
toxic, what do they
So
call it? Toxic shame.
He
They
pulled the
put their-
levitation card out. So that was, that was fine.
And the worst thing I ever heard, in my opinion, was when I asked, what can I do about the pain? The doctor said, you're only a woman anyway. It doesn't really matter. Why don't you just shoot yourself in the head?
Oh, yeah.
A treatment plan that we did not.
I
we
was
did not
there. I
carry
heard
out.
that. Yeah, we
I brought him in for every appointment when
I
the
did.
abuse got so severe.
that
Yeah.
kind of evened the playing field a little bit, but not much.
So Cynthia and John, you've done so much in your 40 years of For Grace. So anything in the future that we should know about? I know you do the Women in Pain Conference. You've been doing that virtually, correct? What's in the near future?
Well, I think we're moving, we're doing a lot of trauma right now. We're figuring out, we're going to be doing a conference about trauma where we're going to be doing some pretty cool things. Like we're going to be doing an ACE test in real time. It is going to be
Questionnaire in
virtual.
real time,
Right. What
Mhm.
else are we going to be doing?
We're going to be reaching out to people to tell us their stories of
That's right.
trauma and and how that led to or did possibly lead to their chronic pain or chronic
Mhm.
conditions. So we're going to have vignettes, but we're going to have a lot of experts, again, a lot of great people speaking about this. Again, it's not maybe 10, 15 years ago, it would have been hard to find folks that could speak with
It's true.
authority on this subject, but it is not now. And we've got we're hoping to have a great speaker out of the University of Michigan and join us, Jennifer Pierce. She's done some tremendous work on connecting the dots between trauma and chronic pain. So that is definitely one thing we are.
And we're
hoping
also
to
not
get
ju-
into Canada
not
by the end of the year.
not just focusing on trauma being a driver for illness, but also post-traumatic growth. What happens to like more than, I think like 2/3 of us at least, who go through
Right.
trauma, we end up, having a life where we help people more. And
Right.
and
Right. Exactly.
you describe post-traumatic growth a lot.
Post-traumatic
better
growth
than I
is,
do.
yeah, again, just if you've survived trauma and you've come through that other side of it, how you now have a new appreciation for life and also maybe a deeper appreciation, a greater strength, and also a deeper appreciation of helping others
Life, yeah.
now. So there's countless stories.
Deeper
renewed purpose.
spirituality.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and
right.
another thing we're going to be doing is it looks like we're going to be sponsoring another bill, another
Mhm.
legislative bill.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're crazy enough to do,
Hopefully-
to do that.
Yeah,
in-
expand Medicare, Medi-Cal. That's our Medicaid system out here in California.
Expand,
Cover more
integrate.
pain care options, for folks that are covered under Medi-Cal here in California.
More integrative
Yeah.
care.
Integrative.
So, yeah.
There we go.
So, and you have done so well. At one time, California was one of the only states that mandated credits in pain management to get your license. Is that ever going to happen again?
Well, I
I'm
mean,
getting-
hopefully that's still on. And you mean any other state in the union?
No,
I mean,
is it still happening in California?
it's still happening in California, as far
Good.
as I know. Yeah, you're right. You need to, I don't know how often it is, but you definitely need a 6 or
CME.
7, 8, I don't know what the number is, CMEs that address pain management directly. So that has been revolutionary out here in the state of
yeah.
California.
But we've been disappointed, like with our conferences, we used to offer CMEs and CEUs for nurses for continuing education,
Right.
but the doctors just wouldn't
Right,
show.
right.
Yeah, so
Or-
that was just, and like when we've done grand
We're
rounds,
patient
they'll
organization.
kind of look
Patient
at,
organization.
what can an advocate teach me? That's always been so frustrating. And yet I've heard that if they don't come to something like a conference, where they really learn about pain. They're going to go have coffee and talk about baseball, which is,
That's okay too.
but it's just, no, it's
No, it's not.
disappointing.
It's very
Yeah.
disappointing.
So, yeah.
That's okay. We're doctors being doctors.
The hubris, yeah.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
they're bringing more of the studies in the medical schools. They're bringing the humanities back. They're trying to say, hey, again, you're dealing with people here. Patient autonomy is, I've heard that term coming out now a little bit more.
Patient-centered care, right?
Patient-centered care, but
said
that
that earlier.
seems to be kind of a word. It's a nice phrase, but not really
We're
being
not
applied
doing
yet.
it,
But so
not yet.
hopefully, we're
I will
looking to
say,
more and more
just with my
partnerships.
cancer care, we're doing something that's really revolutionary. And it was my oncologist idea, Western doctor. And whenever I brought a doctor in, like my integrative doctor, my pain doctor, and then another oncologist who I loved, she moved. But he's doing like a team Cynthia. And we meet like this quarterly, and my oncologist says where I'm at, everybody gives their expert opinion,
Right.
and I make the final decision. So rather than a tumor board, this is a shared decision-making board. And we want this to be the future of medicine. I mean, integrative care, but
Right.
hopefully all medicine. And a
patient.
lot of people are writing about this now, my particular case. So
And you're the
that's
CEO of your team.
We don't even
There
like-
you go.
We
Exactly.
don't even like the
Good
word
point.
patient. What is the word
Yeah.
patient? That means you're sitting around waiting for somebody else to have the
Your
answers
back
for
end
you. You're
patient,
patiently
right.
waiting for something. I'm saying,
Patiently. I
we're
haven't
working
heard that.
on wellness seeking. We become wellness seekers. There you go.
Okay, calm
Okay,
down.
I've got
Calm
all-
down.
Jim, you
All
got
right,
me
all right, Alexis, we will be quiet. Have there been any
No,
questions?
I love it. I love that last part. So we do have a few questions, and of course, if you are live right now on Facebook, be sure to add some more questions in the chat for our guests. So I do want to start with this statement that I thought was interesting. Someone said, when I was first diagnosed with RSD 30 years ago, I was told by my psychiatrist not to cry. Now I'm in a new program where crying is a great relief and decreases pain. And I just want to say that out loud because it is okay to cry. Sometimes
It's a good thing to
It's a
cry.
good
It's like
Mhm.
laughing, really. I mean, I'm
It
not
is.
just taking away from crying, but it's a similar emotion. How often do we laugh and then that goes into crying, or the vice versa, right?
Very healthy.
You
thing
go,
to do.
yes.
Very
Yay,
healthy
I
thing
love
to
that
I
comment.
love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that emboldened me. I'm going to cry. I've needed to cry, and I'm going to cry after this
Here,
this
I've
live.
got some tissue for you.
We're
just in
ready.
case. There we go.
That's very touching.
So here are a few questions. So you mentioned sleep, and of course, a lot of people with CRPS have issues with sleeping. So someone asked, what do you suggest for sleep management? I'm lucky if I get 3 hours of broken sleep each night. What are
3
your-
hours.
Yeah.
Gee. Okay, so I'm guessing this person maybe has chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, or maybe it's the pain's keeping
Sure.
this person.
Often.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
So I'm thinking a heating pad. I'm thinking meditating. A heating pad's been helping me lately. Meditating. I get in bed at 8:30, and I don't usually fall asleep until like 10 or 11. But it's just really good sleep hygiene. And I recommend turning all the screens off. Don't listen to the news. There's never good news. So I mean, there is good news, but you don't hear it on the news, right? So I recommend cuddling with your kitties or your puppy if you have or your partner.
Yeah.
But I think meditating it really helps me fall asleep and get a better night of sleep.
Right.
I think also I put a lot of pressure on myself, like, oh my God, I'm counting the hours that I'm missing. It's everybody's asleep, and I think if I cover one thing that helps me is I cover my clock. It
Covers
makes
her
John
clock.
crazy because he doesn't know what time it is. But if we don't put so much pressure on ourselves and just decide that it's okay that I'm in pain, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just in pain, and that's okay. I think that's helpful.
I think
hope.
that's right. And a book I'm reading right now, it's called Breathe by James.
It's called Breathe.
James Nestor. It's right here. Anyway, it's right. It's been a great book. But anyway, it's again the idea of breathing, the idea of
And breathe. That's
with
good.
CRPS. I mean, it's because our autonomic nervous system is in fight or flight. It's flying off the
It's good point.
spectrum here. So the idea of deep breathing. I know this is when you're level 9 and 10
And that's
pain. I know these
meditation
things
too.
are very, very not going to help a lot, but could if you can get into a deep breathing pattern and really
Yeah.
use that. So they mentioned mindfulness, but
I like to use the word, you're wired, you know?
you're wired up. You
Yeah,
are
that's
flying.
true.
This is
Mm.
your autonomic nervous system is off it's just
Yeah.
running
Yeah.
amok. So you want to
Someone
try to
just mentioned
rein that
that-
in as much as possible to get a good night's sleep. Yeah.
Okay, Alexis, break in.
No, someone
Yep.
just mentioned that it's a great book, and I just put the link to the book on Amazon into the chat. So definitely check that out.
Oh, cool.
Very good. Great.
All righty. So next question. So of course, we all know that those with CRPS typically have other conditions, but this person is saying, of course, some physicians don't believe this. How can I explain to my physician that my high blood pressure could be related to my RSD because he doesn't think it can? And so I guess for this question, for blood pressure or any other conditions, how does someone say these two things are connected when your physician doesn't understand?
I think that you should just be able to say it and that your physician should listen to you. And I right away go to, if the physician isn't listening to you and saying that your opinion doesn't matter, then I would shop for another doctor. I would fire that doctor. What do you think?
Oh, I think that's one option. I mean, I don't, you could bring in, a bunch of printouts that show the connection between the two studies, what have you. I mean, you could do that, but I know doctors seem to resist that idea, especially if you bring in too much of these materials. I don't know. I forget there was a syndrome that's called, but they seem to shut down if you bring in too.
That's
again,
our next book, actually.
they're talking 10, 15-minute appointments, right? So I don't know. I mean,
That's
you
true.
could try to bring in one study that is very, has a very, connected to a very reputable organization, the National
Yeah.
Institute of Health and what have you, and see if that might.
Yeah, it's PubMed is a fabulous place to find peer-reviewed studies, and perhaps you just Google their blood pressure and chronic pain.
Would bring in one study though, not.
I was going to
one
say,
study.
the doctor's going to be threatened by
Yeah,
the study, though.
John,
Yeah.
one study or two abstracts.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the abstract, even better. Yeah, if you can just give them, right, if they can just read a paragraph, right? That might
Aw.
do. That might
These
do.
questions make me sad
Yeah.
because we can't.
This is
fix it.
2023. What
Yeah,
the
this is
hell? We're in the
2023. What the
21st
heck?
century. Why
Yeah.
are we still having these questions?
Hmm.
Right. And it's questions like this, of course, we get every day on our Facebook page. So just trying to remind everyone to, of course, be your own advocate and then come to your physician's office with a little bit of research. Of course, like you just mentioned, you don't want them to kind of say, well, why are you here if you know everything? But at the same time, you want to make sure that you are saying, hey, this is what I have and this is the issue and I need you to listen to me. And I think that's really
Right.
important.
And I want you to
Thank you,
partner
Liz.
with me.
There you go.
Right.
I like
I want
that.
you to be my partner.
We're
Will this
working
work?
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always love all of our questions, and I hate to say I have a favorite question, but this was probably one of my favorite questions from the evening. So Cynthia, how do you get over the guilt of needing someone to help take care of you? And they use guilt in quotes. I'm gonna use the guilt of needing someone to take care of you. And then John, what can you suggest for caregivers to keep them from burning out?
Good questions.
Oh, me? Okay, burning out. Yeah, well, I think there's yes, that is a major issue with caregiving is burnout, but that's I think self-care, as we've talked about this, and it's I had to learn this. This didn't come to me. I mean, it took me a while. First 20 years, I was definitely in that. I was definitely in that thinking that I had to do everything and be all things and everywhere and everything for her, and that was cool. That was a great way to go until it wasn't, until I put on about 30
Until it
pounds
wasn't, yeah.
and I
That's
was
right.
stressed out and I was overwrought, and because that just, it wasn't the way to go. So I realized it's okay to take care of yourself, to find time for yourself, to there's no guilt, there's no shame. It's that old cliche when if you're in a plane going down and you're responsible for somebody to your side and those masks come down, you want to put that mask on yourself first and then pop it on that other person. So, I have a community garden. I go out for walks. I read. I separate myself from this individual for at least 4 or 5 hours each day, just because, and have my own thing in my own world. And that would be my top advice. There's no shame or no fault in doing any.
No baseball, John?
No, but yeah, baseball.
I'll watch it
Yeah,
with him.
unfortunately, she watches it with me and she goes crazy when, our team, the Oakland A's, play poorly.
You
Which
said that.
is all the time now. So
Oh,
that's,
no.
so it doesn't help her. It doesn't help me.
We're
But anyway,
actually wearing green and gold, aren't we?
that is,
I just noticed that.
I have green pants on, you have gold. Yeah, we were trying to be subtle there. Anyway,
Okay.
but yeah, so that's
No,
my,
we do.
that's my advice. So
Unconsciously.
what's your advice?
What I'm not a caregiver. So, but the guilt
guilt.
is such a good, it's such a good question.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should have more guilt. I used to think I'm ruining John's life. I'm ruining John's life. I got to get out. I can't do this anymore. I think that we talk. If I feel
Sure.
guilty, I talk to John, and we have really good conversations. We have a very good relationship,
We do.
and we've worked really hard at it. We've been together for 43 years,
Yeah,
and I think that the guilt has gone away because I know he really wants to take care of me. It's a scary thing to think, what if he wasn't here? That's really scary. Even though I have girlfriends who say, we'd be there in a second. It's just, it wouldn't, I need this guy.
Sure.
You're my life.
Right.
And I think also, you said I get away from her. I think that, or you put the mask on first. I think being able to let him do that, which was huge when
Right.
I said, you need to go, you need to leave, you need to go plant a garden, you need to go on your walks, you need to do these things, and not be angry at him anymore. I think that's when the guilt went away.
Yeah.
When I could
Right.
really be happy for him that he was going to go do something, and I was going to go do something, and then we were going to meet up and share our experiences,
Continue
but
this
not
experience.
spend every moment
Right.
together. So
Sure.
I think that's the answer is
Very healthy.
yeah.
I think so.
Which
I
I
think
know
so.
was super hard during the pandemic, just seeing someone every single day. I can relate to that as well.
Well, see, for us,
So, yeah,
we're still in the
funny you
pandemic.
should say that.
So
Yeah.
we still wear masks everywhere.
Pandemic didn't
'cause
change our
yes,
lives
no.
at all.
No, it didn't. No, our lives are it didn't change our lives.
Yeah.
And we're still going, now the
Yeah.
pandemic is harder for us because now everybody isn't doing it. It's kind of,
Right.
it's not many,
Totally.
it's immunocompromised people. And so the pandemic did leave people behind, and we're two people that it left me behind, and you
Yeah.
by association.
It's okay.
So yeah,
okay.
but we're good sports about it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's
There are a
hard.
few people here in the chat who can definitely say they relate to everything you're saying about caregiving. My husband can relate to John. I can relate to Cynthia. So definitely getting some messages here in the chat.
And I got to say
Sure.
too, with the pandemic, I used to always say, you got to get vaxxed, you got to get boosted. Now I realize the pain flare that I'm having, it started with my second vaccination. And if I were to go back, and now I've learned I should not have done that. So it started off a whole new pain, what would you call it? Syndrome in me.
Syndrome,
You know,
something
yeah,
new,
so, yeah,
something
so,
new,
um,
but who knew,
We didn't know.
you
We
know
knew
you
so
can do.
little, and we did the best we could.
Again,
But we
it's
have
that-
to be
it's
so
that
Major
careful.
question to be vaxxed or not with CRPS.
And of course, we did get a
I know.
lot of questions about that too.
Mhm.
So definitely understand.
Disorder. I mean, they did not, you didn't know. You were trying to protect yourself and get yourself in the best place not to get clobbered with a terrible virus.
I
But
know,
you
and I
never
had
know.
a friend who kept saying, Cynthia, they didn't study those. They didn't study us. They didn't study people who are immunocompromised.
Exactly.
And I was telling her, Heather, you have to get vaccinated, and I got vaccinated. Now, I wouldn't have gotten vaccinated.
Alexis, cut us off. Anything else?
We do have one more question. I was actually just doing a little bit of
Sure.
research about it before I asked. So, and I don't know a lot about this myself, but as many people I think know, Celine Dion has stiff person syndrome. Do we think there's and I'm sure, obviously we are not physicians, but have you ever heard of there being something, or is it similar to CRPS, or is it related? I guess is the question I want to ask. Does anyone on the call know? Jim, are you aware of that? Someone just asked in the chat.
I don't think there's a relation, but you think of dystonia, which is very common with CRPS. the abnormal
There's-
muscle
Didn't know
postures.
if you had heard or like any connections.
I think, which, again, the idea that all these conditions have so much, I mean, we're all overlapped with the neurological system, with, all the other systems in the body. There's always going to be things that overlap and could influence, could look similar to one other or another condition. So I'm sure the same thing that's causing Celine Dion's stiff man syndrome is probably
Stiff
have a hand
person
in what also in part drives CRPS or, any other autoimmune disorder. Yeah.
I'm actually optimistic that with the merging research in long COVID, that will help us.
I think it will
Absolutely.
too, except
Absolutely too.
sadly, I'm hearing that a lot of doctors aren't believing that people have long COVID. They're just.
It's the
lazy.
1990s for long COVID.
Yeah, it's,
exactly.
but if we
Exactly.
study ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, I mean, those are, we've already done so much work with long COVID.
Yes.
That's where the answers are,
Yeah.
so we have so much information to help people with long COVID, but it's upsetting when I read that somebody in the medical profession got long COVID and then was not believed, by their peers. So hopefully let's believe in it and let's work together and we've done
Get
so
some
much work
answers for
for chronic fatigue syndrome and get answers for both.
Yep.
Because I think also I agree that this could really help us. Those of us with pain because I mean, COVID's real. So I mean, long COVID should be real, right?
Right.
It's all real.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Well, all righty. This has been amazing. I can't believe this hour has already flown by. So I want to thank both of you for this great info and discussion. And please keep us posted on your upcoming event and the bill. Just anything that you have going on, of course, please send it our way so that we can let our community know.
Thank you so much, Alexis.
This
Thank
has
you
been
so
an
much. Thank you,
extraordinary
Jim.
pleasure.
What an
Great
honor to be. We said
Yeah.
honor at the same time.
Yes,
And
thank
we're
you.
able to say CRPS. after
Even
all
though
these
you are
years.
a Red Sox fan, I send you peace, my friend.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, I always think about Stephen King, longtime Red Sox. He had already figured out his epitaph on his tombstone was going to be, "They didn't win while I was alive." Now he's got to rewrite it.
No,
Boom.
but they did.
But they did.
But
He's
they
still,
did.
thank God, he
I
doesn't
love
have to go
that.
to his grave with that. Yeah. Well,
All right.
But
Thank
as
you
always,
all.
everyone, we will have this video pinned to the top of our Facebook timeline for easy access if you want to rewatch it. And we will also add it to our YouTube channel. So of course, send us a message if you need a link to our YouTube channel as well. If you have any questions for us, if you need a support group, if you're looking for a new physician in your area, or if you want to tell your story on the RSDSA blog, which will have a new look and feel very soon. I'm very, very excited. Please email us at info@rsds.org. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys so much.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. Be well.